Hello everybody, this is Dan Miller for Bluegrass Unlimited magazine, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about some new techniques on the mandolin. The first one's going to be cross-picking, and we'll cover a variety of different cross-picking patterns. And the second one's going to be harmonized scales, because the toggle that we used last time and the double stops we used, we can use these harmonized scales with those techniques, and we can also use harmonized scales with cross-picking, and I'll demonstrate all that as we go along. One thing, a little plug I want to give right here is years ago Tim May and I produced this book called The Mandolin Player's Guide to The Mandolin Player's Practical Guide to Scales and Arpeggios. So the stuff that I'm going to be talking about today, the cross-picking and the harmonized scales, are in there. Of course, cross-picking is under the arpeggios section, because usually you're going to be cross-picking across the chord. We have standard arpeggios in there, and then we have the cross-picking patterns as well. And then we have the harmonized scales in there, and then we have a lot of different scales. We cover the major scale, the major pentatonic scale, the major blues scale, the minor pentatonic scale, the minor blues scale. And we do that in a way I think that's interesting, or what we call practical, because we teach you the patterns and then show you how to use those, or how they're used in tunes, mostly fiddle tunes, because fiddle tunes are sort of scalar in nature. They use straight scales, which means up and down the scale, and they also use what we call folded scales, or scale patterns, or some people call them scale spirals. Okay, so we cover all that stuff in this book, and I think we do it in a practical way, in that we introduce a scale and then we show you how it might be used in a tune, or point out how it is used to form a melody of a fiddle tune, fragments of straight scales and then parts of folded scales, and how that all comes together. Anyway, that book can be found at flatpick.com if you're interested, but now we'll just go on and cover cross-picking, and we'll cover harmonized scales today. I'm just going to put out the ideas today. Next time we'll do some demonstrations of how you fit these things into particular songs. Okay? So cross-picking, I'm just going to take a little G chord here, and basically there's 3 or 4 patterns that are prominently used. Okay, the first one in the mandolin world is the McReynolds pattern, which goes down, up, up, down, up, up, down, up, up. Okay, so I'm going 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Of course, you could do it on any 3 strings. You could even skip over strings. Some people are purists and say it has to be on 3 consecutive strings. I say not really. You can do any 3 strings that are not adjacent, that are not the same string. So here I'm going down 3, up on 1, up on 2. And you could start that pattern anywhere. I'm just starting it with the down and then going up, up. Now George Shuffler on the guitar did it a little bit different. George went down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. So I'm going 3, 2, 1, down on 3, down on 2, then up on 1. Okay, that's another pattern that you can use. I'll talk about the nature of these patterns in a minute. I just want to show you all of them first. The next one is what we would call the alternating pick cross-picking pattern, where I'm going 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, and I'm always doing down, up with my pick. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So it's a continuously down up, your down up pattern, where your downs are always falling on the down beats and your ups are always falling on the and beats. So if you count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 4 times, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and we'd go down on the numbers and up on the ands every time. Alright, now there's a 4th pattern I want to talk about, and purists may not call this cross-picking, but it's a handy pattern to use. It's a 4-note roll. All of these rolls that I've explained so far, we'll call the first one the McReynolds roll, the second one, the shuffler roll, the third one, the alternating roll. This fourth one is a four-note roll, four-note repeating pattern, not a three-note roll. Okay, and so I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2. And of course, again, you could do it on any set of 3 strings. So, and I'll talk about, you know, why this one's effective. And again, sometimes you mix these patterns up depending on when the chord changes and where the melody lies. Now, when I interviewed George Shuffler about his cross-picking, I said, George, you know, you're doing your roll and you're going along, and how do you fit in the melody notes and how do you fit in the chord changes? And he goes, sometimes you got to come off your roll. And so we can use our toggle that we talked about last time, which is going down up on adjacent strings. And what I'm talking about is if I chose the McReynolds roll and I continued that roll, it's a 3-note roll in 4/4 time. So really it takes 12 beats for this thing to come around back to the top again. Well, that's 3 measures. What if you have to change your chord after 1 measure? Well, you want to even up that roll. So instead of going 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, or whatever, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, whatever roll you're using, instead of continuing that pattern, you're going to make a 8-note roll out of it by going, let's say I'm doing the McReynolds roll, I'm going to go 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then just go 3, 1. Or I could go 3, 2, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to do that toggle. So I'm going 3 notes of a roll, 3 more notes of the roll, and then 2 notes to make it 8 notes in the measure. So it would go, let's say, and that evens it up. And then you could change your chord or fit a melody note at the top of a measure, because the top of the measure is usually your most crucial anchor notes for the song. So sometimes you might have to come off your roll to grab a note or change a chord. And that's the way you can do it, is go 3 notes, those are your rolls, and then do a toggle 2 notes to come back up to the top. Okay, so say we take a song like Home Sweet Home. It's got 1 measure of C, then moves to 1 measure of F in the key of C, and then it goes back to C for 2 measures, and then it goes to a G chord. If we're going to cross-pick this thing, we have to use that toggle in between the chord change to come up correctly as we move through the melody of the song and the chord changes. So let's say we start out like so. I'll use a McReynolds roll. So that's the point where I want to change my F chord. So then I'll change to the F and do the same roll. And then I go back to my C. So each time I'm doing that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 pattern for each measure. So anyway, that's just something to keep in mind when you're doing your cross-picking and you need to fit a chord change in or sometimes grab a melody note, okay? So next time I'll do a little cross-picking on the tune we've been working on, When the Saints Go Marching In, and show you how you can combine the McReynolds roll with the alternating roll and the 4-note roll. That's the ones I typically use. I don't use the shuffler roll that often. But let me explain the differences between these rolls a little bit. If you're doing a 3-note roll and you're doing 2 notes together, which means 2 pick directions together, either the McReynolds roll or the shuffler roll has the same pick direction 2 times in a row. Shuffler is down, down, up. McReynolds is up, up, down. Okay? What does that do for you? When I interviewed George Shuffler and asked him why he chose that kind of pick direction, he said, because I like the lilt. Okay? And what that comes down to is it's got syncopation. Because if you play, let's say, take the McReynolds roll, when you play a downstroke, it tends to be more emphasis, because you know gravity's working with you. You got the thumb behind it. It really tends to be more of an emphasized note. And the definition of syncopation is when you emphasize an off beat. So if you're going 1 and 2 and, see right there, I've got a downstroke on an and beat. If I do either the shuffler roll or the McReynolds roll, so I got 1, 2, 3, 1, let me count this with ands. 1 and 2 and, okay? So every other time around, I'm going to play a pretty emphasized note on an and beat, and that gives it that lilt or syncopation, what George was talking about. So if you're doing the shuffle roll, it goes 1 and 2 and. Again, you're going to be playing downstrokes, you're going to be playing emphasized notes on and beats, and that's what gives it that syncopated feel or that lilting feel to it. Now, when you do the alternating roll, you don't have that because, again, you're playing downstrokes on the emphasized beats and you're playing upstrokes on the and beats, and typically your downstrokes sound a little bit more emphasized or solid than the upstrokes, okay? And that's the nature of this style of music. Those downbeats, those emphasized beats are usually the numbers, and the and beats are usually not so much emphasized. So anyway, that's the nature of that. When you go to this 4-note roll, okay, we talked about having to do the toggle to square away the cross picking because it's a 3-note roll in 4/4 time. When you go to the 4-note roll, which is 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, okay? You don't have to worry about that because you got a 4-note roll in 4/4 time. Plus, cross picking is a little bit challenging for the right hand because whatever roll you're doing, and I think this is why it's got the name cross picking, because you're crossing over strings. So if I'm doing the alternating one, I'm going down, up, down. I'm moving down on the first string. My next pick is up on the 3rd string. Okay, that's a tough move, all right? So that's why cross picking is a little bit demanding and takes a little bit of time to get smooth with your right hand. And then the other part that is a little bit more difficult is just fitting in the cross picking roll in with the chord changes, in with the melody. That takes a little bit of working out as well. But this 4-note roll, notice you don't have that big string skip move. You don't cross over that middle string. You're going to go 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2. So you don't have that crossing over a string to get to one on the other side of it move. And I think that's why some people say, well, that's why it's called cross picking. So if you're doing this 4-note roll, it's not really cross picking because you're not going across. Well, okay, they can have that. That's fine. But I still like to use this roll. Number one, it's a little bit easier. You can sometimes play it a little bit easier, a little bit faster. Sometimes it just fits the melody of the song better, or it just fits the chord changes better. So yeah, throw it in there if you need it. So those are the 4 different kinds of cross-picking rolls. Now let's move on to harmonized scales. Okay, a few videos ago, we talked about double stops, right? Playing 2 notes together. And we can also toggle those. We talked about double stops being 2 notes together, or the same left-hand form we can toggle. Okay? And we basically put it in the context of a chord shape. So you grab a chord, and play 2 notes, 2 strings together at the same time that are in the chord, creating a double stop. Now what a harmonized scale is if you were to take a D scale, right? So you got a D scale right there, okay? We're going to take each note of the D scale and harmonize it with another note in the D scale, a third away from it, what's called a diatonic third, because it's in this. They're both notes are in the scale of the key. So if I was on this D note here, this F sharp note right there would harmonize with that, okay? And that's We all know that. That's our chord. You know, those two notes are in our chord. But the next note in the D scale, next note down from D, is a C sharp. I'm going to harmonize that with the E. Because if we tape the D scale, we get D, E, F sharp, right? And then here we've got C sharp, D, E. So that E is a third from the C sharp. If we did that with every note, the scale, the harmonized scale would be like this. Okay? So that's an entire D scale, and I'm harmonizing each note with a note that's in the D scale that's a third away. All right? So it's only two different patterns. You've got this pattern and you've got this pattern. This pattern is a note on the E string, and the note on the A string is just one fret away back from it. The next pattern is 2 frets away. So it goes the 1 fret pattern, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1. So you can see I'm either using this shape or this shape, like this. Okay? So that's a harmonized scale. Well, what can you do with that? There's a lot of cool things you can do with that, and I'll show you some song examples next time. But you can play them as just I'm playing them now. You don't have to keep going down or up. You can mix it up. You could just go different ones. You could toggle those. Okay, you can toggle them, or you could go. Right? So it's another way you can do it. And then now we can combine it with our cross-picking. You could do a cross-picking roll. I'm in the key of D, this harmonized scale is in D, so I can use this open D string as kind of a drone. So I could go. Okay? So, just as a quick example, let's say we're doing the B part to Whiskey Before Breakfast. So that's just one example of how you might fit that in. A lot of times it's really cool to use if you're playing something up the neck here and you want to move down the neck. Sometimes these harmonized scales are cool to use. My friend Tim May does this a lot on the guitar. In fact, he's the first guy I've seen use harmonized scales quite a bit in his guitar playing. He also does them on mandolin. But anyway, that's what a harmonized scale is. That's a little example how you can use them. That's you know, you could do double stops. You could do toggles, just a single toggle, a double toggle, like that, or you could cross pick. And you can see I'm using that 4-note cross picking roll now, like that, just go on down the harmonized scale. So practice these, check them out, play with them a little bit, and we'll do some more with it next time. We'll see you on the next video. I'm Dan Miller for Bluegrass Unlimited Magazine.